How's it going, everybody? My name is LuckyBunz, and in today's video we're going to be going over all of the events for the month of November. With that being said, let's go in and get started. Okay, so first of all, let's go over the current season bonuses, and by the way, this will be the final month with these bonuses. So we're going to get guaranteed extra large candy from trading Pokemon if you're level 31 or higher. We're also going to get increased friendship experience, so basically 1.5 times the normal friendship experience. And we're also going to get increased experience and Stardust for 7-day catch and spin streaks. So I do highly recommend taking advantage of those first two bonuses as much as possible. Try to do as many trades as you can every single day. And if you have any friendships that are getting close to leveling up, make sure to redeem those during this month. Following that, let's take a look at the Shadow Legendary Pokemon that are going to be featured during this month. We'll first start off with Giovanni. So the current Shadow Legendary available from Giovanni right now is going to be Shadow Heatran. This came into rotation on October 8th during the last Team Go Rocket Takeover event. Now, Shadow Heatran is actually a really good Fire-type attacker for the Raid/Gym meta, and it also ranks really well in the Open Master League if you do end up getting lucky with the Hundo. Now, ideally for Shadow Heatran, you will want to have the signature moveset Magma Storm, which will require an Elite TM and Frustration removed. You could always unlock the secondary charge move for this, but I would just wait until the next event to TM Frustration, probably sometime next season. Flamethrower is a good secondary option for Heatran if you don't want to actually give it the Elite TM for Magma Storm. Now finally, I do also want to mention that this specific Heatran will also be Great League eligible, so you may want to hold off on powering it up in case the meta changes in GBL. Again, this is only for like PvP specific players. For everybody else, you probably just want to use this as a good Fire-type attacker in the Raid/Gym meta. Next up, let's take a look at the Shadow Legendary Pokemon that's going to be featured in Raid battles, which is going to be Shadow Suicune. This concludes yet another rotation of Shadow Legendary Beasts. It is the third and most likely final rotation for these Pokemon, and I'm really hoping so because I'm a little bit tired of them at this point. Now, unlike Shadow Raikou and Entei though, Shadow Suicune doesn't really have that much meta relevance. Like, you can use it in the Open Ultra League as more of a spice option, but it's really not that meta relevant. So in my opinion, the only reason to actually focus on this Pokemon is for the potential Shadow Shiny. Otherwise, it's going to be more trouble than it's worth given the Shadow Suicune is the toughest of the 3 legendary beasts. Moving on, let's take a look at the Research Breakthrough Pokemon available, which are going to be Galarian Weezing, Galarian Mr. Mime, Excadrill, Scraggy, Furfrou, and Jangmo-O. Every Pokemon that I mentioned except for Excadrill has the potential to be shiny, and I did actually get a recent Galarian Shiny Mr. Mime, which was super awesome. I actually haven't gotten a shiny from the Research Breakthrough box, and I want to say at least over a year, and you also have a chance to get a remote raid pass from these if you actually have no more than 2 in your Pokemon bag, although it is pretty rare. Following that, let's take a look at the Legendary Raid Pool, and shiny forms will be available in every single one of these Pokemon. The rotation cycle is also going to be from 10 AM to 10 AM local time, so keep that in mind as we're going through these. So first of all, we have Darkrai continuing onward until November 4th. There have been a lot of Pokemon that have outclassed a Darkrai over the years as a Dark-type attacker, but with that being said, Darkrai is actually still worth focusing on for the main appeal of its elusive shiny form, which can only be caught from raid battles. For those of you who don't know, Darkrai can't actually be traded because it's going to be a mythical Pokemon, so this is the only way to get it. And I've actually struck out every single year on the Darkrai shiny, so I'm hoping before this rotation ends I'm going to be able to get my hands on it. We're also going to have 2 times catch candy until November 3rd thanks to the Halloween Part 2 event, so make sure to take advantage of this opportunity to farm a bunch of Darkrai candy. Now after Darkrai, we're going to have Lugia in rotation from November 4th to November 18th, a pretty long rotation. So this Pokemon doesn't really have that much raid relevance. Actually, it has really bad raid relevance, so I wouldn't recommend using it there. But it does have really good PvP relevance in the Open Master League. It was actually a lot better before the Season 20 nerfs to Flying-type Pokemon, but I'm pretty sure it's going to make its way back into the meta at some point. Now on top of that, Lugia is also going to have access to its signature moveset Aeroblast during this event, which is really awesome. And combined with the fact that it can potentially be shiny, this is one of the best times to actually raid it if you don't already have one. Now following that, from November 18th to November 27th, we're going to have the return of Dialga and Palkia in their origin forms, and I'm so excited to see these 2 return, guys. These are some of the best Pokemon to have in the entire game, and you're also going to have the chance to get them with their legacy movesets, Roar of Time and Spatial Rend respectively. There is one downside though, you're not actually going to be guaranteed to get them with these movesets, and I'm not entirely sure how rare they're going to be either. If I have to look back to the Sinnoh Global, I believe it was around like 1 out of 10, which is pretty rare to be honest, but it might have been actually a little bit better than that. Either way, these are absolutely worth raiding for other reasons too. Both of them have their shiny forms available, and they're going to be top Dragon-type attackers in the Raid/Gym meta, and both of them are actually going to be really good to use in the Open Master League for PvP. So if you've been holding on to a bunch of raid passes for something really good, these 2 Pokemon should definitely be a top consideration. Looking at Palkia origin form specifically, this has actually been one of my most used Pokemon since the Sinnoh earlier this year. It is literally amazing in every aspect of the game. Now following that, we actually have 4 different Pokemon featured in the next rotation from November 27th to December 3rd, which is the end of the season. And honestly, it's going to be a little bit messy if I'm being honest here, because it's going to be hard to hunt down the Pokemon you really want. So from the raid rotation, we're going to have Zacian, Zamazenta, Regieleki, and Regidrago. So first of all, let's take a look at Zacian and Zamazenta. So it's pretty awesome that we're actually going to have these Pokemon coming back into rotation so soon after we just had them recently at the end of September and the start of October. I didn't manage to get either of these Pokemon shiny, so I definitely might try to get them again because I would like to actually have them in the main series games. Currently, there is no other way to get the shiny forms in there because the only other way was through a special GameStop event a few years ago. So for any main series Pokemon players watching this video, that might be an incentive to actually raid both of these Pokemon as well. But in terms of the meta relevance for Zacian in Pokemon GO, it does actually have some play in the Open Master League, ranking number 35 currently, which in my opinion is pretty good for that league format. Now in terms of actually using Zacian as a fairy type attacker for the raid/gym meta, I wouldn't really recommend it because it doesn't actually have a fairy type fast move, so in my opinion I feel like it's just better to go with your other top options like Xerneas, Enamorus, Gardevoir, or Togekiss. Now in terms of the meta relevance for Zamazenta, there really isn't that much meta relevance for this Pokemon currently, so the main reason to really focus on this right now is for the potential shiny form. Now I do also want to mention that both Zacian as well as Zamazenta will have crowned forms released at some point in the future in Pokemon GO, probably not anytime soon, but they will require the same candy. Now we do also have Regieleki and Regidrago featured during the same time as well, like I mentioned earlier. For both of these Pokemon, unfortunately their shiny forms will not be released once again. I really have no idea why either because we've actually seen them in rotation a few times now, and typically after the second or third rotation, I mean we do have the shiny forms available. I have no idea why, guys, we haven't got these yet, but in terms of meta relevance, there really isn't any for either of these Pokemon in raids or for PvP, so the only reason to actually raid these right now is if you want them for your Pokedex entry, which is a pretty low incentive, so I mean in my opinion, I really don't think people are going to be focused on these that much, mainly just Zacian and Zamazenta. Next up, let's take a look at the Mega Raid rotation though available this month, and shiny forms are going to be available for each of these Mega Pokemon as always. Now we actually have quite a few Megas featured during this month, guys. Normally we don't actually have this many, but we have a total of 6, so let's run through those right now, starting off with Mega Bayonet, which is going to end on November 4th. So Mega Bayonet is the second best Mega Ghost type attacker in the game right now behind Mega Gengar. If you already have Mega Gengar, I wouldn't really worry about this Pokemon outside of the Mega Pokedex entry. Keep in mind, Mega Gengar Energy was available from field research tasks during the Halloween event, and as of the time of making this video, that event should still be going on right now, so you still have a chance to get this Pokemon, but on the off chance that you're unable to get enough energy for Mega Gengar, Mega Bayonet is a good secondary option. So basically, for those of you out there who decide to actually power up Mega Bayonet as a ghost type raid attacker for your raid teams, I would not go past level 30. That's the best place to actually leave it as a temporary raid attacker and then hold on to your resources for Mega Gengar when you eventually get your hands on that. Following that, we're going to have Mega Manectric from November 4th to November 11th. This is actually the best electric type attacker in the game currently, and for the ideal moveset you want to have on it, it's going to be Thunder Fang plus Wild Charge. From November 11th to November 18th, we're going to have Mega Salamence available. This is currently the third best Dragon type Mega in the game right now behind Mega Rayquaza and Mega Garchomp. So if you don't have those two, I would strongly encourage you guys to raid this one for the energy. And what's actually really cool about Mega Salamence is that you don't need to have the exclusive Conde moveset Outrage on it either. You can totally run it with Draco Meteor and it's going to be a great option to have. This Pokemon also has access to a dual typing of Flying and Dragon, which is pretty good for candy bonuses as well. Next up, from November 18th to November 27th, we're going to have two Mega Pokemon available. The first one is going to be Mega Beedrill. This is going to be the second best Poison type Mega in the game behind Mega Gengar. It also has the dual typing of Bug and Poison, which is pretty good for candy bonuses. Now for the other Mega Pokemon, we're going to have Mega Ampharos, which if for some reason you missed Mega Manectric, this is going to be the second best electric type Mega in the game. It also has the dual typing of Dragon and Electric, which in my opinion is really good for candy bonuses during certain events. I've definitely used this Pokemon quite a bit. When I actually think about it too, I'm pretty sure I've used Mega Ampharos more than Mega Manectric because of those candy bonuses. So yeah, it's a really good Pokemon, guys. Definitely recommend getting your hands on this one. Our final Pokemon is going to be Mega Altaria, which is going to be available from November 27th to December 3rd. This is a Pokemon that I've honestly rarely seen available, but it will be making its appearance for a short time. And while Mega Altaria isn't actually like a great Pokemon to have for the raid/gym meta as an attacker, it does actually have some PvP relevance in the Open Great League as just Altaria, so you can just Mega that one. You don't need to build a separate one to have for the Mega Evolution. It's perfectly fine using your Great League spread, or your Ultra League spread if you have one of those. And the reason for that is because its main appeal is going to be for the candy bonuses, since it actually takes on a dual typing of Fairy and Dragon in its Mega form. Now as always, to end off the Megas, I want to provide some general information for any new or returning players watching this. So first of all, you only need to evolve these Pokemon once before getting access to their cooldown period moving forward. You're also going to get more extra large candy when your Mega Pokemon gets to Mega level 3, which is unlocked after 30 days of Mega Evolution. And on top of that, when you actually complete these mega raids, you're going to get guaranteed charge TMs, which in my opinion is a really good bonus. So basically my recommendation is always to do at least 1 to 2 raids for the initial energy needed, and then after that you can just walk them as you're ready to get more energy that way. Next up, let's take a look at raid hour, which is typically every Wednesday from 6 to 7 p.m. local time. Although this month the raid hours are going to be working a little bit differently, because we're going to actually have some raid hours featured on different days as well. I also want to mention that you can also get 1 guaranteed extra large candy per raid if you guys decide to do these in person, which I thought was pretty cool. Now as far as the raid hours go, on November 6th and November 13th we're going to have Lugia raid hour. And then on November 19th, which is actually a Tuesday, we're going to have a raid hour for Null Ego. And I believe this is actually leading up to the Go Wild Area event, which is kind of why we have all these random raid hours. So following that, on November 20th, we're going to have the raid hour for Tapu Koko. On the 21st, we're going to have it for Dialga Origin Form. And then on the 22nd, we're going to have it for Palkia Origin Form. And then finally, on November 27th, we're going to have the raid hour for Zacian, Zamazenta, Regieleki, and Regidrago. But I honestly don't think this one's going to go over that well, because having this many available Pokemon means that it's going to be entirely RNG to get the ones that you want. If you drive around, this is fine, but if you go to like a set spot every week like myself, then this is kind of problematic, especially because I'm not really that interested in Regieleki or Regidrago at all. Now for those of you who are a little bit unfamiliar with how raid hours actually work, most gyms are going to have the featured Pokemon appearing and the raids are going to reset after 30 minutes, which means you can basically hit the same gyms again at the half-hour mark. This is pretty convenient if you only have a few gyms around you. I would also strongly recommend checking out Campfire for any local meetups before this event. Next up, let's take a look at max battles. The rotation cycle for these are going to be from November 11th to December 3rd. Now we're only going to have 6 Pokemon featured and they're all going to be repeat Pokemon. We're going to have the Dynamax Gen 8 starters and the Dynamax Gen 1 starters. So first of all, let's go over the Dynamax Gen 8 starters. So we're going to have Grookey, Scorbunny, and Sobble. Now when it comes down to the Gen 8 starters, these were just released in-game about a few months ago, and they haven't actually had their comm days yet, which means you should still be doing them when possible for a chance at a hundo. I personally got a hundo Grookey about a few weeks ago now, which is really awesome, and it would be really cool if I could Gigantamax this in the future, but for right now I'm just going to focus on getting Frenzy planned when the eventual comm day is announced. Probably sometime next year. Now I do also want to mention that if we ever get Max Soup in Pokemon Go, all these Pokemon can Gigantamax as well, which is pretty awesome. But for right now, we can only get Gigantamax Pokemon from doing those respective raid battles, which are 6-star raids, and those are really difficult. Now we also have the Dynamax Gen 1 starters, Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle. Regardless of actually having their comm day exclusive movesets, you should still be doing these to stockpile candy and at least evolve some of them so that you have proper counters to use against the Gigantamax 6-star max battles. Now you don't need to power up these Pokemon or even give them their max moves, but having the evolved forms of these Pokemon with the right movesets is honestly the bare minimum. Keep in mind that these raids only cost 250 MP, which means you can do 3 to 4 of them every single day for free. You don't have to spend any money whatsoever. You can Pineapple Berry every single one of them, have an active Mega Evolution at the same time, you can Mirror Trade them, and then you could even leave them in power spots to get up to 5 candy additionally. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to get more candy on these Pokemon. Shiny forms are also going to be available on the Gen 1 starters, but not the Gen 8 starters, although they are going to be at full odds of 1 out of 500, so the odds of actually getting a shiny is pretty slim. Now we do actually have a new type of event upcoming this month, which is going to be called Max Mondays from 6 to 7 p.m. local time, and obviously on Monday, right? So this is basically like the same thing as Spotlight Hour or Raid Hour for legendary raid bosses, except it's going to be featuring Dynamax Pokemon. So first of all, on November 11th, we're going to have Charmander, on the 18th, we're going to have Drillbur, on the 25th, we're going to have Bulbasaur, and then finally on December 2nd, we're going to have Squirtle. Now the only Pokemon that I really want to talk about right now, because we just went over the Kanto starters, is going to be on the 18th for Drillbur. This is going to be a new Dynamax Pokemon, which also might be available during the Into the Wild event, which pretty much starts on the same date. Now for right now though, that is just speculation because we haven't gotten the event details for that event just yet, and you should definitely try to make some time to get a few of these raids done during this day, because during the upcoming Wild Area event we're going to have Gigantamax Toxtricity available, so having Dynamax Excadrill is going to really help you out, because that Pokemon is going to be weak to ground types. Basically outside of that though, there isn't a big incentive to actually do these Max Monday raid hours, or Dynamax raid hours I should say. The only Pokemon really worth focusing on here is going to be Drillbur. Now with that being said, let's take a look at the upcoming events for this month, and the event windows are also going to be based on your local time zone, so make sure to keep that in mind as well. So first of all, from November 2nd to November 3rd, we're going to have the Go Battle Weekend, and hopefully by this point in the season, you guys have actually reached rank 20 in GBL. Your hard work will now actually pay off if you want to farm Stardust, because you're going to be getting 4 times Stardust from the win rewards, and the total sets per day is going to be increased to 20, which means 100 battles per day. And I know that kind of seems like a lot, but if you actually follow my 1-4 strategy, you can spend the least amount of time battling and get a ridiculous amount of Stardust. Like, I'm talking like hundreds of thousands of Stardust, guys. It's that OP. Now, the active league formats during this time is also going to be Great League, Ultra League, and Master League, so there's basically something for everybody. And there's also going to be a free timed research awarded in Elite TM, which you do not want to pass up. This is such a good resource to have in-game, whether you're a newer player, returning player, or even a veteran player. So whether you guys are focused on PvP or not, this is definitely not an event you want to skip. Now, following that, from November 7th to November 12th, we're going to have the Harvest Festival, and the event details for this event have already been released. I should have a video up on this closer to the event with some tips and tricks to help you guys get the most out of it. The featured new shiny for this event is going to be Smoliv, which is that cute little olive, and we're also going to have the special bonus of 2x catch candy. So honestly, not like a huge event, but it's going to be kind of cool for the shiny hunters. Now, in between this event, we're also going to have the Calm Day for Mankey, which is going to be the next featured Pokemon. The special bonus for that day is going to be 3x catch candy, and it's also going to be a PvP focused Pokemon with no raid relevance. Now, for some players out there, this definitely means a skip, but for others, you're definitely going to want to get your hands on this, because Annihilate, the evolved form of Mankey, the final evolved form, is going to get the exclusive moveset Raging Fist, which is expected to make it more meta relevant even after the recent nerfs to counter in Season 20. From November 15th to November 17th, we're going to have the Simply Groundbreaking event, and I kind of expect this event to be similar to the Magnetic Study event, so it's pretty much just going to be like a short event focused on like a few specific Pokemon, which sounds like ground types. From November 18th to November 22nd, we're going to have the Into the Wild event, and this is most likely going to be the event that leads into the Go Wild area event over the weekend. If we take a look back, both Go Tour and Go Fest had similar events, so this would basically follow the same pattern. Now, without a doubt, one of the biggest events this month is going to be the Go Wild area event, the Global Edition, from November 23rd to November 24th. That's going to be like a 2-day event. And honestly, guys, this is going to be crazy awesome. I'm already working on like a few big videos to help you guys get prepared and ready for that event, so as we get closer, I'm going to upload those, but this is the first of its kind, and we're going to have a wide variety of amazing Pokemon to acquire, so you do not want to miss this. And then finally, from November 27 to December 1st, we're going to have the Max Out Finale event. So once again, I'm going to cover all of these events in more detail and go over some more tips and tricks to help you guys get fully prepared for them, so if you haven't subscribed to the channel by now, I would strongly encourage you to do so. Now finally, to end off things for this video, let's go over the Spotlight Hours, which take place every Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m. local time. Shiny forms will be available for each of the featured Pokemon. So on November 5th, we're going to have the featured Pokemon be Surskit with the special bonus be 2x transfer candy. This Pokemon, unfortunately, is not meta relevant in anything, like it's not good in raids, it's not good in PvP, so the main focus here is going to be on the special bonus of 2x transfer candy. I would recommend creating a search tag, group together all of your rare Pokemon and extra legendary Pokemon leading up to this event, and because we do have the guaranteed extra large candy trades right now, bonus points if you actually mirror trade them with someone beforehand to get even more candy. Next up on November 12th, we're going to have the featured Pokemon be Smoliv with the special bonus being 2x Evolve experience. This Pokemon is not meta relevant either in raids or PvP, but it is going to be a brand new shiny Pokemon released during the Harvest Festival event. It is going to be full odds during this Spotlight Hour, which is kind of unfortunate, but I know that the shiny hunters out there are probably going to be happy about this one, because you're going to have so many Smolivs to actually shiny check, which is, I mean, that's pretty good, right? Best chances right there. Now, on the off chance that you don't actually care that much about a shiny Smoliv, you could also just focus on the special bonus of 2x Evolve experience. I would gather about 70 evolutions in a search tag per lucky egg, and if you can, try to coordinate any friendship level ups during this time as well. Remember, we are getting the 1.5 times friendship experience right now, so it's a great way to actually get the most out of your lucky eggs. On November 19th, we're going to have a combined Spotlight Hour for Teddiursa and Combee, with the special bonus being 2x Catch Stardust. So this will be a very interesting Spotlight Hour, guys, because on one hand, you have the amazing Stardust boosted Pokemon Combee, but on the other hand, you have Teddiursa, which isn't Stardust boosted. Now, Combee actually awards 750 Stardust per catch, and combined with the 2x Catch Stardust bonus, this is going to be 1500 Stardust per catch, which is insane. That isn't even including the weather boost potentially, or even a star piece active. So factored those in, I mean, the Stardust gains, guys, are going to be completely unreal. These are easily some of the best events to grind Stardust, and we actually had one of these last month with Shroomish, and I cleared over 400,000 Stardust just playing for about 45 minutes with only one star piece actually used. So with Combee actually awarding even more Stardust per base catch, I mean, these Stardust gains are going to be through the roof. But there is one downside, and that's going to be that Combee actually has a really low catch rate. The best way to actually go into this event is have as many Ultra Balls as possible plus Raspberries, and you should be good to go. Now, if you actually want to focus on Teddiursa as well, both its second stage form Ursaring and its third stage form Ursaluna will have relevance in PvP. So if you don't actually have some good IV spreads for Ursaring or for Ursaluna, you could focus on this as well, but I think the main focus here is going to be the Stardust grinding aspect for Combi. Remember, you only have 1 hour to actually grind as many of these as possible, and that really isn't that much time, trust me, it goes by really quick. So if you really want to make the most out of your star pieces, you gotta double down on Combi and kind of ignore Teddiursa. Now finally, our last spotlight hour of the month is going to be on November 26th with the featured Pokemon Joltik and the special bonus being 2x catch experience. So when evolved to Galvantula, this Pokemon actually used to be really good in PvP, but it has since lost its meta relevance, and I'm really sad to say that too because I loved using Galvantula, it was such a good Pokemon. It may come back one day though, but as of right now, it's really not that good, so the main focus here is going to be the experience bonus, which isn't really that crazy compared to other methods in game. Not to mention, Joltik is a really difficult Pokemon to land excellent throws on, so it can be really frustrating trying to actually XP grind this Pokemon during this event. So basically when it comes down to it, this is one spotlight hour I might consider skipping. So with that being said guys, in conclusion, November is going to be another massive month in Pokemon Go. There are so many different things to focus on. The best Pokemon by far though, Dialga Origin Form and Palkia Origin Form. If you guys don't actually have these Pokemon with their adventure effects, Roar of Time, and Spatial Rend, I would make this a top priority this month. And as always, if there's anything you're looking forward to specifically, let me know in the comment section down below. And if you do want to check out some more content, I'm going to recommend these 2 videos right here. But before you go, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you all real soon in the next one.